This meeting is being recorded.
Hello, wonderful. This is Sarah, and I am so excited about my fellow Tennessean guest. I met Emily Winters at a conference we were at in Nashville, and she runs Strings for Hope, which is an amazing organization that she knows more about than me. So, Emily, please tell us what this is.
Yeah, so I run Strings for Hope. It's broken musical strings made into jewelry, and our mission is to employ survivors of addiction, human trafficking, and domestic abuse. But yeah, all handcrafted, beautiful jewelry out of broken guitar strings and bass strings, and yeah, that's
Oh
a
my
little bit
gosh.
more about it. Yeah.
That is so cool. So you have musicians in Nashville donate their old strings, right? So this isn't just like you're going to a pawn shop and picking up old strings.
Yeah, so it's strings from all over. Honestly, we get strings sent to us from anyone from a famous person to we have homeless people that perform on the streets that will give us their strings. So literally anyone and everyone can donate their strings, and you can feel good about it because you're keeping it out of the landfill and also providing a job for a survivor. So it's a really cool concept. And fun fact, strings actually stay in the landfill for like over 100 to 200 years because it's just metal, right? So it's just corroding and being gross metal in our landfills, and instead you could provide a job with it. So it's a really great concept. Yeah.
And such like a trifecta, right? It's like you are helping the environment and you're helping employ people and you're making like beautiful work. I mean, it's beautiful.
Thank you.
So
Yeah.
I love it. So how do you find people to employ?
Yeah, so we go into facilities. I'll give you a breakdown kind of like how Strings for Hope works. We go into halfway houses, human trafficking safe houses. We basically partner with nonprofit facilities that don't have a social enterprise business. There's not a lot of, you hear the term social enterprise kind of thrown around out there, and basically, you know, you're giving a social impact or you're providing a business structure for maybe a demographic or of people that don't otherwise wouldn't have that kind of structure. And so we label ourselves as a social enterprise. But with the demographic that we're working with, you don't have some of these facilities that we partner with, just they don't have any way for them to make money. They need to have their they need to be going through their recovery kind of checkpoints and really focusing on themselves during that time. And so we thought, what a great way to provide job opportunities to women who have been through this is to go partner with these nonprofits, lift them up, but really it's meeting the women where they're at. So we work with Thistle Farms right now, and End Slavery Tennessee, which is End Slavery Tennessee is a trafficking safe house. And they actually have their whole program structure is more than just a safe house, but they're wonderful. So we go in there and we do weekly classes. It's like a class work development program is what it's called, but it's a class-like structure for the first few months. And we meet them where they're at. We're bringing in pieces. We're like a giant assembly line. So we're going in and we're like bringing in broken string and like we're cutting and measuring little pieces to it. And then it'll go back to our in-house office team and they will solder it and mold it into all of the beautiful pieces that you see. And then the in-house workers they're also survivors or like myself, an ally to this community. And so they are just contributing to the bigger picture and the bigger circle of it all. But so the first 4 months, we work with the facility, meeting them where they're at. And then after a few months of that, our goal is to bring them part-time with us. And then hopefully full-time hire them later, or at least help them find another job, be a resume builder. Yeah.
So. Oh, absolutely. And just a confidence builder as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's been it's been kind of a sad week for us because we had one of our employees start a new job. She moved to Chattanooga and she's amazing. We love her so much, but it was really awesome to hear like how she valued the company and what it brought to her. And she didn't even come through the program. However, she is sober and is in this community. But she taught the women in the facilities and for a bit and played a big role in the inventory and creating the product. And her just hearing how just really, I needed that. I was like, we did that, really? You feel motivated? You feel like you got something out of this? And I mean, to the outsider, you can look like we're doing that all the time, but for someone, running a business and having this podcast, you don't know if you're actually, you don't always believe that you're doing that all the time, to be honest. And so it was really nice to hear that going through this kind of like bittersweet transition with our team. I'm really realizing the impact that we're making, and more than anything, it's empowering people.
Well, I think that's a really important point, because I do get a lot of feedback. There was a client recently who got a $20,000 raise. I had someone else get engaged this week, which is quite the ends of the spectrum on what I do,
Yeah,
but
for sure.
it's like, I'm thankful every time they tell me, because there's other pieces of running a business or whatever that just suck, right? I mean, they're just not fun, or some of the resiliency required, or making sure you're back to the basics. For me, I don't want to like get too far away from what I originally right. There's just so many pieces to think about that before I was running a business, I didn't think about that. It was just like, oh, that's cool, they do podcasts and that kind of stuff.
Right.
And
yeah, it's just crazy the impact that you have on people. Well, it's kind of like what we were talking about at the summit, right? With my actual for you listeners, my panel was building a brand with purpose. And to be honest, I struggled a little bit with feeling confident going on stage, if you will, to talk about that, because I'm like, what is my purpose? Like, I had to really think about it as if it's almost like a subconscious thing, because anyone can have a purpose in their business. And that's what I talked about was it doesn't matter what you're doing, you can bring purpose to your company or the company that you work at. And it might have nothing to do with what you're selling, or the fact that you have a podcast platform, or that you're a coach for so many people. I mean, the goal isn't just for you to help someone get engaged or help someone do whatever they want to do. Your goal is to impact people in some type of way. Like, your purpose is, there's a deeper meaning to it. And it took me time to figure that out. And I realized, I can't employ everybody. I can't just work with every survivor here. And like, why do I want to work with all these women who have been through so much stuff? I'm like, I just want to empower women, and that's my purpose right now. That's just focusing on that.
Well, what I hear you talk about is kind of like this spiritual journey, or like the hero's journey of building a business. And that is something no one told me about before I went into this. And I just really didn't know, about that impact. And, I have a lot of organized religion, in my past, but the building of the business and really connecting with purpose and having to slow down or speed up or make quicker decisions or figure out who the boundaries, what you just described as boundaries, like I can't employ everyone, like I can't help everyone. So who can I help? Where are those boundaries? How do I, the people, and as I'm sure you understand, like, somebody will get on the phone with me, like, can I help you? Or can you help me? And it's like, that's really not what I do. I help you to some extent, sure, but that's not, I'm not, I have actually a sweatshirt that says I'm not for everyone, and, but I'm not. And anyone who says they are for everyone is liar, liar, pants on fire, right? Like something's very wrong. But if there is, someone's been abused, someone's been human trafficked, someone's been, struggled with addiction, and then you have to turn them away for some reason, which you have to, you feel terrible. And I think that's, my husband's seen me go to sleep crying. I have just been furious because of people describe certain situations, and then I'm like, okay, do you want to change your situation? They're like, no, I know that my daughter doesn't respect me, and she's suicidal because she's watching me, but I think it's going to be fine. It's going to magically work out. And I just get off the phone like in a rage, like that I have to calm down. So I'm really glad you talked about that spiritual journey of the business a bit, and kind of the behind the scenes, because I feel like people are not talking about that as much. And we're talking about such deep issues, right? Like abuse, like addiction, like sex trafficking, you do want to help everybody. You didn't get into this to be mean.
No, it sucks. That's the best way to describe it. It's like, this actually kind of sucks. And it doesn't matter what business you're in. If you were, yeah, so I think some of y'all have heard of an Enneagram. I am an Enneagram 2 to my core. I am an empath to my core. I wish I could be a 3. I wish I could be more of a business-minded kind of Enneagram 3 person, but I am a 2. And so with those boundaries, with working with survivors and just working with people in general, I have struggled for years. I still struggle. Just being able to provide an opportunity for these women is wonderful, but I have had to say no many of times and had to draw the line. I've been taken advantage of a lot of times too, because you can allow it in a lot of ways. And kind of the theme of this podcast, like just those kind of toxic relationships I've allowed in, or I've been a part of. And as a business leader, and things that they don't really talk about in business is building those boundaries with the people that you're working with. I feel like, most companies will have just like HR, but with small businesses, we don't always have that. And also it's so like, HR is so like kind of like cut and dry. It's like a book, you just go by the book. But they don't tell you as a business owner that you're going to be emotionally invested in all these people, and that it's going to be really hard when they either leave, or, you can't employ them forever, or a pandemic happens and you have to let all of them go for a bit. And it's just, yeah, they don't prepare you for that. So it's good that we can talk about that a little bit. Yeah.
Well, even, I don't know if you've had people who just kind of like give up on themselves. Like, even in my program, it's really interesting. I might have somebody in like 6 weeks, 7 weeks, and then they're like, oh, they changed their profile picture back to their ex. And then they send me an email like, hey, I've had some changes at work, so, I can't finish your program. And I'm like,
yeah.
I mean,
that happens all the time. I mean, that happens. It's like this stigma, right? That like this only happens because if I was to tell you, yeah, that happens with like survivors of domestic abuse and like things like that, like they'll go back to old patterns, or like obviously addiction, you'd be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But no, that happens with everyone. We all can fall into our old habits. I see that happening to me. I have to check myself with holding myself accountable. I am recently getting back into therapy, thank God, doing something for myself. And I just feel like it's so hard, because what do you want to do? You want to be like, you want to shake them and be like, get your shit together.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's like
boundaries. You can't do that.
Lots of boundaries. Yeah. No, but it is because I think there's really this idea. It's like, okay, if I get a good boyfriend, or if I leave this marriage or whatever, that I don't have to fix the pieces of me that need boundaries. But it's like, no, it will keep showing up for you. It will keep, like, if you do not solve this problem, what I call becoming toxic person proof. If you don't get a grip on this, it's going to show up in work. It's going to show up, just wherever, friends, your kids. Like, you don't have kids yet, but there's so many people whose like kids are running them over. Yeah. And they're just like, well, I just want to be nice. I want them to be happy. And I'm like, man, their future employer and future spouse are really going to wish you'd done some work around this, it's tough it just shows up and what life wants us to learn.
I totally agree with you. And I think that's a big reason why this is not what this is about, but why I'm like, I don't want kids right now. It is because I'm so aware of that. It's terrifying to know just the little things that can impact, kids for sure, but people in general. How you treat people how you want to be treated, right? So if you're continuing this mentality, into your life, if you're looking at people a certain way, if you're scared of hurting people's feelings, if all these things, like, it will continue to show up even in the best of relationships. Even if you have wonderful, for me, I have wonderful employees and everyone's so great, but there has been have been many times where I've had employees that, like, are awesome people, but they run over me because I was such an easy target, and easy to run over. And that was something that I've had to learn, to build those relationships a little bit better, and the boundaries and all those things that we're talking about. But yeah.
Well, I one time had a lady, and she said she was wanting to start her own business, her own coaching business. And I said, what have you been doing, or, with your work? And she's like, oh, I guess if I'm going to stay at my corporate job a little bit longer, then I'm going to have to work on some boundaries. And I just was like, let's just chat about the difference of boundaries required for having your own business versus working for someone else. Like, I mean, there were built-in boundaries when it's not your baby. Like, which I know your business is, right? There's built-in boundaries when it's like, okay, there's someone else to do this job. Well, sometimes there's no one else to do the job when you start your own business, and then, maybe within corporate, it's like, oh, so-and-so was mad the project wasn't finished. You're talking about, okay, how do I turn down someone who was sold as a child into, like, sex trafficking? Like,
yeah. Well, that's an example of something we don't work with, like teens or kids. And, that's happened where we've had people reach out and they want to, or one of the facilities reach out and they were like, well, we have like a teenager. Can they work for you? And I have to draw the line. You can't. There's many reasons that go into that I'm sure I could break down, but ultimately we just don't work with people underage because of liability issues, and that sucks. And random people reach out all the time who are like, I'm in recovery, or I'm a survivor, or I'm an ally of this, and I would love to, make the jewelry or do something for you. And it's like, I can't right now. This isn't how our structure works. And yeah, it's kind of a blow, but you have to learn how to say no. And I've definitely have said yes. That's how I've learned how to say no.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Great analogy, especially as that Enneagram 2, which is the, caregiver, right?
Yeah.
Caregiver. Yeah. And I always think about, like, fire or water. Like, fire can either burn you up or keep you alive. Water can either hydrate you or drown you, so that kindness, we want to keep hold of that kindness. You want to be kind and take care of others and make a difference in the world. It's wonderful things, right? Yeah. We just can't let it consume us.
Yeah. You can't let it, it can't be my identity.
The
biggest way.
Yeah.
I know.
There's a term called Helpaholic that I heard one time, and I've used it as mine, and it was just like, this woman, she was like, yeah, I'm a helpaholic. And it was really kind of apparent in her own life how she was reaching out to always help others, but it was kind of in avoidance of doing her own work.
Yeah. Oof. Yeah, that was me. That kind of still is me sometimes. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we're all on a journey, right? We're all on a journey.
Well, I think that's the thing. You're not ever going to talk to someone who's perfect, right? Like, we're all human. And I think it's important to talk about those things, because the people listening to this are, if they're doing great work like us, I'm sure they're flawed in some type of way. And that's something that I love talking about, that specific subject, because I have to talk about it so I can, correct myself on that journey of being someone that helps so much, and, doesn't always help yourself. And that just falls back into those boundaries and drawing those lines, because that's what that is. But yeah.
Well, and if anyone is pretending they're perfect, run very quickly, far away.
Yeah, right. You don't want to work with them.
No, that person is hiding something dangerous. Well, what is a really cool story? We talked a lot, you talked about a former employee, but are there any other cool stories that stick out within your work, whether from somebody who got your jewelry or someone you employed?
Man, I mean, there's so many random stories. They're all just kind of like mixing together, but I feel like I'm working on trying to live in the present. So I'm going to give you kind of like what's going on with us right now.
Sure.
And so yes, you heard about one of our employees who is, moved on to a cool position. We're joking around saying that she's just going to get training so she can come back to us. But we have another employee who is amazing, and she wants to own her own bakery. And this is like just a quick background on me. Like, I have struggled, again, being like an empath and working with the demographic that we work with, and like just working with people. You're bound to get hurt in some type of way. And we've dealt with a lot of trials and tribulations with people where they've hurt me, or they've left the business not in a great way, or obviously like overdoses and things like that happen. And one thing to kind of keep going for me is to really empower people to do what they want to do, and not feel like Strings for Hope is everything. I mean, of course it is my baby and it's everything to me, but if I hold it to such a high standard of like, we're saving everybody, then there's going to be an issue, because it's not true. That's not going to happen. And so something that's really helped me and guided me to keep me grounded has been the shift of like, I'm just here to empower women, and I can do that even if that's like empowering them to move on to their next step of life, and that not being Strings for Hope, right? And so anyways, backtrack. So one of our newer employees, who is she's probably going to be with us for a minute because she's amazing and great at the job, but she right out the gate is like, I'm going to own a bakery. And I'm like, I love you. You're great. Like, I love that entrepreneurship kind of mentality, and her having a heart for doing this, and it's just awesome. And so we have these writers rounds that we have happen quarterly, where we put on, if you're not familiar with the writers rounds, it's kind of a musical event, and it's like a little mini, like everyone sings their original songs. This is a fun thing that we put on quarterly. Mm-hmm. But she's debuting her bakery, which is called Boss Lady Bakery, at it. And it's really exciting. She's going to be making empanadas and some cheesecake. If you guys are in Nashville, March 17th, come out.
Well, and I will say, for those of you who haven't been to Nashville, when you have sing-along type events or karaoke or whatever in Nashville, it is not like anywhere else. I've been to Austin and Nashville and some of these other music capitals, but it's like there's so many people looking to make it in Nashville. So like some of these sing-alongs are amazing. They are we get to work with amazing people. I think for us, we started putting them on, it's kind of like you sing your original songs, and a lot of them do covers, and everyone loves a cover, but the writers rounds were meant for them to show their original music, and kind of a give back, because a lot of these people support us, so we're like, let's support them and give them a platform in a way. And we sell our jewelry at it. It's a whole like little thing. And it's called Late Night Coffee Jams. And that's kind of to be inclusive to all. There's not like, we don't have alcohol at it or anything like that. And so anyways, the cool, fun story that's new for us is that one of the survivors that is working with us is getting to start her bakery. It's the first event that she's doing. I'm so excited about it. Mainly because I love cheesecake and empanadas, but also it's just amazing that I see it working. Like, I see that, okay, this jewelry might not be necessarily transforming their life, but it means something. It means that they get to, it represents empowerment just completely, and really taking something that is trash and broken and molding it into something beautiful is just like kind of like how I look at my life. I'm like, we just keep working at it, and we keep working at it, and just keep trying. And that is, why I'm really excited about that, because I feel like she's doing that. So, yeah. Emily, you're amazing. And this is so cool. So where can people follow you, find your jewelry, buy from you, support you? Give us all the good details.
Yeah, so it's just stringsforhope.com. You can always get us on Instagram and Facebook and all those good things at Strings for Hope. And there's a lot out there. We have blogs and newsletters and all of that. And there's lots of deals that we have going on. We're working on collections with different big artists, and that's always fun. Anyone who's listening who plays, you can donate your string. People send in their string, like I said. from all over, and you are really impacting people with that. But yeah, just Strings for Hope on social media. You'll find our stuff, and super easy to just click through and buy. Yeah.
Oh, Emily, thank you so much for the amazing work you're doing, for real. Like,
Thank you.
thank you. And then thank you for today, and helping us on our journey to becoming toxic person proof.
I love it. Thank you so much.